right now.
Okay, this is great.
Give them a second to get all in.
Okay.
Okay, we'll wait.
Okay. So,
Okay. I just want to welcome everyone here this morning. Thank you for joining us. We have a really interesting program. I hope you enjoy it. Three wonderful women are going to talk about this very interesting service and what the courts can do for us. And I know we get a lot of legal questions, and a lot of people come in looking for resources to help them with various court issues and, you know, everything. So these ladies will tell us the resources that are out there to help us help our members, our patrons. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to them and let the learning begin. Thank you.
thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to let us speak to you today. My name is Lekisha Gunn, and along with my colleagues, Sarah Song and Lisa Colpoys, we're going to give you an overview of the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, and particularly our division, which is aptly named the Access to Justice Division. So our agenda today is quite brief. We wanted to give you an overview of many of the resources that we offer and leave it open at the end for questions and comments. So I'm going to go briefly into an overview of our Commission on Access to Justice and particularly our division. My role in the division, I cover mainly our language access programs, so in court interpretation, remote interpretation services, and also a bit of disability access initiatives that we started recently. Sarah is going to go into remote court appearances and e-filing and discuss how that process works. And Lisa is going to talk about our new initiative called the Illinois Court Help, which actually launches next week. So our mission statement for the Commission on Access to Justice, the commission was actually created in 2012 by the Illinois Supreme Court. It's comprised of volunteer judges, practitioners, and stakeholders. Our mission is to broadly promote and facilitate access to justice broadly, with the emphasis on the Illinois civil courts and administrative agencies for all individuals, but particularly low-income individuals and people of color throughout the state of Illinois. A lot of what we do a lot of the administrative work around issues pertaining to low-income communities and communities of color, but also training to judges and court staff. And a lot of our work really focuses on eliminating the barriers that many individuals have to accessing the court system. So that's both through training and knowledge, but also eliminating and confronting biases and stereotypes that many people may have. And here's our strategic plan. And this strategic plan goes from 2020 to 2023. So the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, which we call the AOIC, like I said, we assist the Illinois Supreme Court in court administration, things like the budget, development of judicial education, providing support services to the courts, and particularly within our division. Division was created in 2014, and it became a permanent staple within the administration of the court. So it shifted from just the Commission on Access to Justice to the Permanent Access to Justice Division. And the division has really expanded from just having a forms officer, someone who works on making our forms accessible to certain populations, to focusing on self-represented litigants, many people who cannot afford or access legal representation, and working with self-represented litigants, SRLs, through both the appellate and circuit courts, and branched out into our language access program that covers court interpretation and certifying court interpreters. And recently, our recent initiative is the Illinois Court Help, which, like I said, will launch next week. And that's kind of our biggest project currently. So I'll go briefly into our language access program. So my predecessor really started this program, and really our goal was to standardize and professionalize court interpretation. So in the past, and just kind of throughout the country, interpretation was not seen as like a professional aspect of the court system. So if someone had a limited English proficiency, previously a family member or friend could possibly assist that person in interpretation. And throughout the years, that there has been a strong standardization process through the National Center for State Courts to make certification for court interpretation the standard. So through our registry, we have a registry of interpreters that offer over 70 languages throughout the state of Illinois, including American Sign Language. And a big part of that is being able to have a process for interpreters to take a written exam, an oral exam, pass the exams at certain percentages. For us, being on the registry as an interpreter, you have to pass the exam at least 60%, both on the written and oral. And to be certified, you have to pass at 70%. So it raises the professional nature of interpretation and also makes it a requirement that the court has to provide that for people who may not be able to fully participate in the process because of limited or language ability. And so who are court interpreters? Like I said, they provide court interpreting services for individuals who do not speak English. And the court is required to provide this to the court patron. And so this can be determined by the individual themselves saying that they need a court interpreter, or the judge or court staff may deem that a court interpreter is necessary for the individual to participate. How do you request a court interpreter? Like I said, you can be the person who either brings or defends the lawsuit, a parent or legal guardian of a minor, also a legal guardian of someone who will be considered disabled, witness, victim in the case, or even juror for sign language. Even the juror or the spectator may request an interpreter for American Sign Language. So a couple options, I put these here. So we have a request and order for an interpreter form on our website. It's a little different in different counties. So in Cook County here, we have an office for interpreter services, but in other smaller counties, you could actually just go to the court administrator or the circuit clerk to ask for the interpreter. So we're trying to kind of lessen the barriers for people, particularly for self-represented litigants who need an interpreter, to just simply make the oral request and just say that you need the interpreter to participate in the proceedings. I'm going to shift a little bit to disability access. This is actually a new initiative within our division here in the Chicago office of the AOIC. Previously, our office in Springfield handled most of the disability issues. A big part of thinking about people who may have disabilities in the court is really taking the lead from them and recognizing their needs and centering their needs in the process. It's really interesting. The American with Disabilities Act was passed in 1990. Now it's 2021, and so much of our language and the ways that we think about disability has shifted to more of a model of inclusion. So things that we think about offering the same respect for boundaries, also remembering that people are individuals, people are just trying to access the court system, and just thinking about ways to make their experience more pleasurable. And so that really shifts into, well, first, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the court disability coordinators. So these are the people who handle accommodation requests. Each county within the state of Illinois has a court disability coordinator. which we also colloquially call a CDC. And this is the ADA point of contact person in the courthouse. One of the things that we're trying to do here is raise the visibility of the court disability coordinator. I think many court patrons simply don't know who the contact person is if they need to request an accommodation. And these are people who ideally have expertise or sort of know the basic ins and outs of ADA policy in their courthouse. So one of the things I wanted to talk about before going into reasonable accommodations. So when we think about court access, this is usually a three-pronged approach. So first we're thinking about effective communication. That goes back to language access, whether that's needing an interpreter or additional technology, auxiliary aids and services. Reasonable modifications or accommodations remain sort of the center of court access. And then accessible facilities. So how do people access the actual courthouse? So these are 4 questions that our court disability coordinator manual discusses when we think about ADA issues and whether the accommodation is reasonable. First, is it reasonable? So can we do it within our the space that we're in? Do we need extra resources or expertise to do it? Is it necessary? Usually this question is almost always a yes. When we're thinking about people with disabilities, we want to make sure that we're trying to find the best possible alternative for that person to participate in the process. Does it alter the essential nature of the program? And then lastly, if one cannot grant the specific request, can they provide other accommodations? So ultimately, we really want to try to find a way to make the person as comfortable as possible. And I wanted to kind of briefly go into any limitations to accommodations. The only real limitations that we have are a court staff member is not required to provide personal devices or any type of additional services that are not provided for individuals without disabilities. That person can also deny an accommodation if they feel that there's a legitimate safety requirement, legitimate safety threat, excuse me, and can deny service to anyone who may pose a direct threat. And that part it has to be based on an actual risk. And so the idea is not to try to base that on any type of stereotype or generalization of someone. And Sarah is going to kind of shift to remote appearances.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Sarah Song. I work with Lekisha at the Access to Justice Division of the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. My focus is primarily on legal tech initiatives. And so I'm here to share a little bit of information about remote court as well as e-filing, which are two tech-driven ways for people to access courts. Hopefully you all have heard about this, but since the pandemic, court has gone digital and people are able to access court remotely, either by video using their computer, a webcam and microphone and headphones, or their smartphone. As long as they have reliable internet, video appearances are possible. However, patrons can also attend court just by telephone. If they have a phone that's an old flip phone that's not a smart device, they can call in and still appear in court and take care of their court matters. In terms of sort of the history behind remote court appearances, our division and the commission have been very focused on trying to make remote appearances happen more broadly. The pandemic, a silver lining of that has been to accelerate the adoption of remote court. And so it's become commonplace, but it's been something that we've been looking at for quite some time. And it sort of matches with the general shift in our society and culture where people are expecting to be able to access these types of services remotely. And sort of thinking about court rather than a physical location, but some service that can be accessed, from your home, from your break room at work, where you can be able to conveniently and efficiently attend court without having to travel, incur the expensive travel, think about childcare costs, think about taking time off of work. And so we're really excited about the use of remote court appearances and the way that it can foster more access to justice, especially for people who may be lower income or who have disabilities or health problems, who might find it difficult to travel to court. In terms of remote court appearances, the place that we see public libraries being able to help is with your access to technology, to equipment, to internet, as well as to a space that's quiet and confidential. Some people don't have that in their homes, and being able to provide that type of space is really critical, especially when you have a stressful court proceeding that you have to deal with. In addition, we are so glad to work with public libraries because I think, librarians are able to provide some of that support and handholding that some of these remote court appearances require. Not everybody is familiar with Zoom or WebEx or any other video conferencing platform. And I think that we're hoping that we can collaborate with more of you to be able to provide some of that extra support that some people might need, as well as information about getting a remote court date. Some people don't even realize that that is an option. And so we're here to sort of share a little bit about this option to you, and hopefully that information can flow down to your patrons. The other thing I'll address with this slide is that there is a digital divide. There are people who just don't have any of the tech savviness or the equipment or access to secure internet to be able to access court remotely. We're hoping that libraries can be able to offer to be that bridge and offer some of that technology and try and bridge that gap in the digital divide. And what it can look like, it can be, in a lot of different ways. And Lekisha will hit the next slide and sort of show you a few examples of how it could be. It could be as simple as this desktop computer and a printer and scanner with a webcam and audio. It can be a moving cart like this one on the left that has a laptop and, again, a printer and scanner. This printer and scanner is not necessary, but it's a nice feature to have, since there are certain parts of the court proceeding that may require documentation and paperwork. This middle picture here is a little bit of a pipe dream, and I know everybody is strapped for resources, but this is an innovation that they created in China for a Chinese internet court program. It's almost like a phone booth where people can come in at any hour of the day, take care of court business, and be able to access technology that they might not have the resources to have in their homes. And so this is just a little bit of a example or an array of what it could look like. And to that end, we're looking to form partnerships with public libraries to discuss Zoom rooms or Zoom kiosks, ways that we can collaborate to try and increase that access point into the courts, especially for people who might not have that technology or the comfort or proficiency to use that technology. We've heard of people needing help figuring out how to download that Zoom application, because that can be pretty complicated. Or what is Zoom? Having some help doing some trial runs to figure out what it looks like to appear by video. And so we're really excited to be talking with you. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to us. We'll have our contact information at the end of this presentation. But in addition to these more targeted collaborations about Zoom Court, we do have some resources for you that you might be able to share with your patrons about appearing remotely. Lekisha, if you can just hit the next slide. We've got these two handouts. One is an FAQ tip sheet for how to appear in court by phone or video. It's geared specifically for people who are self-represented litigants, and has a lot of practical information about what to expect, how to treat the proceeding. This is still court, even though you may be in a public library, appearing with, some children's books in your background, and other ways to be prepared for remote court. We also have this second resource on the right with instructions on how to Zoom from your computer, and then another one pager on how to Zoom from your smartphone. And they're available on our website. This helpful resources text is actually a hyperlink in the slides that we'll be sharing with you later. And you can click that link to find both of these resources, and they're also available in Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Polish, Korean, and Chinese. And so hopefully we can you can share those with your patrons and help them be ready and prepared to appear for remote court. And now I'm going to move on to talk about another remote court process called electronic filing or e-filing. Some of you may know this. Lekisha, if you can just hit the next slide. But electronic filing, or filing in general, people used to have to go in person with their paper court forms. One back, Lekisha. Paper court forms to the clerk's office in the courthouse and file their paperwork to get it before the judge. Now you can take an electronic copy of a form and electronically file it through a website that you can access anywhere, including from the library. Since 2018, e-filing is what we call it. E-filing has been mandatory for all litigants, including self-represented litigants, and there with some exceptions that we'll go over in just a few slides. E-filing, like I said, is mandatory in civil cases. There are certain counties that have e-filing, but it is only a permissive option and not required. And we're here to speak with you about this in case any of your patrons come in with questions about e-filing. Obviously, it's convenient to be able to do this from a website, from any location, but there are many steps. And like I said, there are these exemptions. And so we'll go over the exemptions next. There are exemptions both that are automatic, and Lekisha, will you hit the next slide? There are exemptions that are automatic, and then there are exemptions that require a patron to fill out a good cause certificate. So the automatic exemptions are those listed in that last slide. If you just go back one, Lekisha. The automatic exemptions are for litigants who are incarcerated, court cases that involve wills or the Juvenile Court Act, and documents that are filed by a person with a disability that prevents e-filing. Although they're automatic, it still requires the litigant to notify the court that they fall into one of these categories if it's not readily apparent. And so if somebody has a disability that prevents them from e-filing, although it automatically applies, they do need to let the court know about the reason for the exemption. For these good cause exemptions, the litigant does have to fill out a form, and the next slide will show you a copy of that form. And it's available on our site. Again, the link will be in the slides that are shared. And the good cause exemption is available for self-represented litigants who do not have a computer, internet in their home, and travel to these resources would be hard. For self-represented litigants who cannot read, write, or speak English. And then a new exemption was created during the pandemic for people who have tried to e-file but then have been unable to complete it and haven't been able to find the help to be able to successfully e-file. We found this to be the case because a lot of e-filing requires some support and handholding, and that support has been hard to come by when courts and libraries have been closed. And so this is a new exemption that was created specifically to address that. The other type of exemption, good cause exemption, applies regardless of whether or not somebody is represented in a sensitive case type. So orders of protection where people's safety and very private information are involved, then those cases are exempt from e-filing. The process for getting an exemption with the certification, it does not require a judge to grant the certification or rule in it. You just have to fill it out and then include it with your paper file documents. And the clerk doesn't have to make an assessment or anything, they just accept it and then paper file the documents. A judge can as well on their own decide that somebody should be exempt from e-filing, and then they would take care of that. If the litigant doesn't qualify for an exemption though, then we have to turn to this e-filing process itself, which is in Illinois, we have some manuals and guides as well as videos available at this link. We would suggest that you consider registering for an account. It's free on the service that we'll be talking about, and you can feel free to play around and log in and get familiar with the site. So the next slide is just a little visual of our manuals. We've broken down e-filing into 10 steps. One thing that litigants get very confused about is that they have to actually bring their documents into the e-filing system. The e-filing doesn't help you create documents. And so you have to be able to figure out where to get your court forms before you then enter into this e-filing portal. And so that I can imagine that question can come up, and one place you can direct people is to our statewide court forms. And there will be a link later on in the slides for where you can find those. Lekisha probably has mentioned them as well, but that's a great source for people to be able to find court documents for them to fill out and then get before the court through the e-filing system. And as you can see here, there are 10 steps. In order to e-file, you have to have an email address and then register through using that email and a login, and then verifying your email before you can even log on to the system. And so that can be a step that patrons may ask the public libraries for help with. In addition, they may ask about the whole e-filing process itself. And so we're happy to share these manuals. They go through and try and identify many of the steps and many of the issues that may come up. The other thing about e-filing is that there are options for which service provider to choose. In Illinois, there is a marketplace model for e-filing. And so there are several e-filing service providers that litigants can choose from. And Lekisha, will you just hit the next slide? There's a comparison chart that's linked in our slides. These are all the options here on the right. The most commonly used option is this Odyssey eFile Illinois. It is free. There's no fee to use this service. And so many people end up using this e-filing service provider. But one of the trickiest parts is how to figure this out. There's so many options, they aren't very well explained. And so we wanted to share this comparison chart as well as there are options that are for free, but then there are those that charge. And so, whatever the patron is interested in, that's the option they should go with. But obviously the free one probably is one that people will prefer. And the next slide, if you will hit. All right, so this is some ways that we think librarians can help with e-filing. Like I said, one of the main questions that we get and we hear from filers is, where do you get documents to file? What do I do? Referring them to our statewide forms on our site is a great initial step. We have developed statewide forms that have to be accepted if they are completed by a filer. And they are in case categories that are very popular and common, especially with people who are representing themselves. Another way that public librarians can be helpful is putting the document that the litigant has filled out into the correct format. It has to be filed as a PDF form that is a flattened PDF so that no one else can edit it. And so helping with scanners, with printing to PDF options, those sorts of tech support requests, I think that public libraries can be of help there. As I mentioned, creating an email address, which is necessary in order to register, going through the 10 steps, and then reminding the patron that even though you've gone through this entire process to e-file, just because you hit submit doesn't mean that the process is over. You have to wait for the clerk to accept it before you know that the document that you filed is with the judge, and that there may be other steps after you've even had your filing accepted that the self-represented litigant must undertake. And so this leads me to a great segue, because one place that you can also refer patrons to is our newly developed Illinois Court Help hotline that Lisa Colpoys will be able to share with us next.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Colpoys, and I'm a colleague of Sarah's and Lekisha's at the Access to Justice Division of the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts. I joined the team in January, and I came on board to launch a new service called Illinois Court Help. And so I am going to walk through with you today what that is and introduce you to it. And let you know how you can, in fact, use it to help patrons. Okay, next slide. So I want to step back and just start by talking about why this new customer service platform is necessary and why it has been developed. And the idea for it came about during the pandemic, but honestly, it was something that has been needed for quite a while. But as you can imagine, as the courts across the state dealt with the pandemic, they faced challenges to provide meaningful services and assistance to court users, including self-represented litigants, the general public, and even lawyers. The type of help that they previously offered was primarily at the courthouses and in person on a walk-in basis. And clearly, when the pandemic started, that mode of delivery was not really available or feasible or safe. So courts had to try to figure out how to provide services for court users, and many of them really struggled to do that. As you can imagine, lower income communities and communities of color were most harmed by this reduction in access to court resources. But really all court users were affected, even lawyers. So it really became clear that our courts needed an alternative way to offer information to all court users. So that's kind of the why of this new service. We'll go on next to the what is it. So Illinois Court Help is a new customer service platform for all members of all court users to take advantage of. It is a free, comprehensive service. It was proposed by the Access to Justice Commission, approved by the Supreme Court, and has been developed over the last several months by the Access to Justice Division at the AOIC. The idea is that the service will be a comprehensive service. It will provide up-to-date and accurate information about court processes and procedures for all the courts in the state. So that's 102 different counties, each of their circuit courts, the appellate courts, in which there are 5 appellate districts throughout the state, and the Supreme Court. So if someone has a case at any level in any court throughout the state, they can get information by contacting Illinois Court Help if they have questions. Of course, local courts are still the first place where people should reach out to for local information. Recommend their court users to this service, especially if they're asking questions about processes or procedures in adjacent counties or courts that they're not specifically working in. The idea is that the new service will really address the challenges that the courts have had in assisting court users that came about through the pandemic, but as I mentioned earlier, have been around for quite a while. I think some of the impacts or bonuses of this service will be, it will help with efficiency. So if people have answers to their questions, if they have the knowledge that they need for their court matters, they will be able to be more prepared, especially if they are appearing in court without a lawyer. They'll understand the processes and procedures better, and hopefully they'll be more efficient handling of cases through the court system. We want to make sure, though, that people understand that the new service is not intended to duplicate or interfere with any existing efforts to increase access to the courts, but we really want to serve as a connector between courts, court users, and helpful resources and entities. We really want to build on what exists and provide a supplement. One of the things I want to point out is that Illinois Court Help, since it is a service provided by the Illinois courts, will not provide legal advice. So we are not providing legal representation or advice. We are providing information about court processes and about how to use the court. So we envision that people will contact Illinois Court Help when they have some of the issues that Lekisha and Sarah have already talked about, like they don't know how to e-file their documents. They don't know how to appear in court remotely. They need to figure out how to get an interpreter. So those are some issues that we envision people will contact Illinois Court Help for. We will have specially trained court guides who will staff the service. Actually, I'm getting into the next slide. So go ahead, Lekisha. Before we get there though, I think we've already mentioned that this new service is launching on Monday. So this is very timely. At Monday at 10 a.m., the service will be up and running. All right, go forward. All right, some of the details about the service. So initially, users of Illinois Court Help will be able to contact and connect with a trained court guide by telephone or text message. And here's our phone number, 833-411-1121. People can call or text. Our regular business hours to start are going to be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. We're starting with limited hours so that we can make sure that we get the service up and running, and that we can really assess what the need is going to be. We honestly don't have any idea what the demand is going to be for the service. And so this will give us an opportunity to kind of figure that out. So 10 to 2, Monday through Friday, people will be able to call in via telephone. They'll be able to text at any time, 24/7. They may not get a response back immediately. The text messaging service will be more of an asynchronous communication. That's phase one. In the future, we will open up additional communications channels, and that will include web chat. So people will be able to chat, do live web chat from our website, and email. That will come down the road in a little bit. We also, during phase one, are providing a knowledge base of helpful information that our court guides will be able to access in order to provide people information and answers to their questions. And this is especially important because if we're providing information about local courts in all 102 counties, we need to really have a robust knowledge base that includes information about processes and procedures in all those counties. Eventually, down the road, we're going to make this an externally facing resource so that people will be able to call or will be able to search for answers to their questions before they have to call, text, or chat with us. All right, so to staff this, initially we have 4 full-time equivalents who will be on the service, including me and 2 full-time court guides, one who is native Spanish speaking. We also are engaging all of our Access to Justice Division team members who will serve at various times on the service, especially in times of high volume. And as we assess the need, we will have the ability to add more court guides down the road. All right, so we recognize that libraries are a place where people go for information all the time. And so we would love your help in raising awareness about this new service, Illinois Court Help. We are creating a digital toolkit that we will share with you that includes flyers, a poster if you want to put it up in your library, social media posts that you can share, to promote the service so that people know about it. They know what our phone number is. They know what our website URL is. The other thing that you can do to help is if there are local resources that you know that people are coming to your library and often are accessing about the courts or about going to court or about legal problems that you think that we should know about and include in our knowledge base so that our guides have those answers. We would love to know about those. And you can share those resources with me. This is my contact information.
Well, that
right.
is the end of our formal presentation, but we wanted to really hear from you all about the questions you've received, the referrals and resources that you're looking for, and the information that we can help provide. I mentioned during my presentation that we are interested in also exploring more targeted partnerships with individual libraries, sort of collaborating on this remote court kiosk idea, or also thinking about developing a lawyer in the library program. We've had some success down in the First Circuit where they've done some of that sort of work in the public library space. We're also available to provide more training. This was sort of a brief overview of a lot of topics, but we can do more intensive training on these topics or other topics such as how to provide legal information versus advice. What court forms are out there and how can we best refer people to those documents. You can also, we're happy to connect you with law librarians or other local partners within your specific jurisdictions. And we are also learning more information that we hope to share statewide about specific topical areas. Like evictions have been such a big part of what's going on and what people are thinking about for the future and sort of the crisis that we'll be facing next. And the courts are trying to respond as they become part of the equation with the eventual end of the eviction moratorium. And so there are a lot of things that we would are happy to discuss and collaborate on, but like I said, we really want to hear from you all and see how we can best serve your needs and your patrons. So we'll just open it up for any questions or comments or anything else. We're here to listen.
This is Anna, and I love the technological aspect where, people can file forms electronically. And I love the little kiosks that they have in China. That's really cool. Not all of our libraries have rooms that, people can go to like that. Is there any way that some sort of financial assistance might be available for libraries to help them create these kind of spaces? Or I know that right now money is tight for everyone and it's kind of who knows what the future holds. But I mean, do you see that possibly somewhere down the line as being something that could be phased into this program?
I think that the opportunities are available. And so if a specific need is identified and let's say a library has a lot of patrons who are coming in asking for space to go to court remotely or to talk to a lawyer remotely. I know looks like Jill has mentioned that quiet spaces are tough to come by. If headphones and some dividers would be helpful. I think there are opportunities to explore that type of funding, and please do reach out. My email address is listed in the slide. And we'd love to talk more about that and try and develop a pilot of some sort to work together and like I said, expand the ways that people can access courts and add to the entry points that people have to be able to get their legal matters taken care of.
Something else you mentioned was a lawyer in the library. Can you explain that program a little bit more? How does one go about getting a lawyer to come to the library?
So, what we've heard about this through the First Circuit, but what the program is essentially finding pro bono attorneys through bar associations or other groups of attorneys who are looking to do some volunteer work, and setting up shifts where people can sign up and be able to speak with an attorney for a short amount of time on a limited sort of basis, a limited scope type of setup, and get a little bit of information and advice. We've heard that during the pandemic, people have shifted that to the virtual space so that attorneys maybe can zoom in to a library kiosk, and then the litigant will be there and they can talk via video conference, and then be able to sort of handle that a little bit more efficiently, especially on the attorney side. We've heard that because they're able to do that remotely, more attorneys are interested in volunteering in this short way. And as Ellen just reminded me, Brenda Sprague from the First Circuit is the one that has really been spearheading it down in the southern part of the state. And she has some, I think that she'd be willing to speak with anybody who would be interested in trying to replicate her program or learn the lessons that she's sort of gained by running this in several of her local libraries.
Great, thank you.
I think we had some questions in the chat, maybe. I can't access it, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some of the chats are just mentioning sort of the fact that quiet space is a little bit hard to come by in libraries. It's, at least in open spaces, meeting rooms might be a different concept. And we hear that. And so if there are ideas about this mobile sort of kiosk idea, I think Debbie mentioned it could work in their very small library. We're happy to chat. We're looking for innovation and new ways and new approaches. The practice of just continue to do the same old is not going to work anymore. I think we've seen that with the pandemic, and we've seen that we can't stay and continue to do what we've been doing because it's outdated and it's hurting people who may not be able to access court in that way. I heard from somebody who was speaking about how if you took a surgeon from 100 years ago and put them in a operating room today, they would have no idea how to do anything. Whereas an attorney from 100 years ago, if you put them in a courtroom, could probably make their way, right? And it just tells you how slowly and really unchanging the justice system has been. But this pandemic and the changes that have happened very quickly and the impacts that they've had show us that we need to be more innovative and think more broadly. And that's why we want to come and chat with you all, because I think people outside of our system have ideas and ways to think about things that we don't have, and we need that perspective, and we'd love to hear from you all.
I think some concerns that might come up for libraries is, besides for like really being able to provide the level of confidentiality that people would require for these things, if they're having these kind of meetings and it's not, the level of confidentiality isn't to where it should be, would libraries run into any problems with that? I mean, are there any repercussions that libraries could incur from, like someone will say, the connection wasn't good enough, and, or, all of these little maneuvering things that people can do, are there any protections for libraries if they do engage in this kind of stuff? And how much should they worry about legal aspects of coming back to haunt them?
I will say for remote court, all of court is publicly available. So except for certain limited cases that involve certain sensitive populations, like, juvenile cases and things like that, court is open to the public. You can go to a courthouse and sit in a courtroom and hear a proceeding. Many courts during the pandemic have decided to live stream their remote proceedings so that that public access is still available. And so with remote court appearances, the confidentiality issue is less of a concern because it should be open to the public, and it is open to the public. A person may personally want more privacy because this is their divorce or their eviction that they don't want everybody in the library to hear about. And so they might have a personal preference for that, but legally speaking, it's open to the public. And we've seen a lot of people actually Zoom in from public libraries for remote court. And I think they choose that because that's their way of being able to access the courts at this time. And it's what's convenient. I would say it's different for facilitating conversations with an attorney where the attorney-client confidentiality comes into play. And so that type of situation might require more thought and care because confidentiality in that sense is very important and would require more safeguards. So we're happy to talk about that. And like I said, share lessons that were learned down in the First Circuit.
Now, something else that I know from personal experience, libraries are the place that people go to for help, which is wonderful. And we help with a variety of topics. We help people with their medical questions. We help people with their tax forms and how to access tax information. And this seems like a logical extension. But then, and we always say when we're helping people find legal information that we are not attorneys, that, we're just like them. We really don't know the law any more than they do. We can just direct them to the resources. But this all results in people expecting us to know a lot more and to help them more. I mean, it's amazing how much work we do that we have not been trained on. And it's like, we are not employees of the IRS. We are not employees of, the testing services for the CDL or, any of those things. And yet we help people all the time with that. So what kind of, you said that you could come in and do training programs for librarians on like how to use these things and how to help people more effectively. And also it would be really helpful if you could tell us like how to draw that line and make it clear to the people coming in that, we can help you to this point. And it's kind of like the service you're setting up, Lisa, where it's like, you can walk people through, but you can't give them legal advice. It's kind of hard for people understand that sometimes. So, and
yeah, our colleague Jill Roberts does a fabulous training on the difference between legal information and legal advice, geared toward people who are not lawyers and how to draw that line and what you can provide and what you can't provide. So that is definitely an example of the type of training that we could provide for people.
Good. We might take you up on that and have that as a follow-up program that we do, because it would be very helpful, I think, for everyone. So, yes.
And I might just add on, Anna, we're exploring the idea of a community-based justice guide or navigator program where somebody, let's say from a local library, would be trained on certain topics and be able to be sort of like that point person who has the court information and can relay it to their colleagues or to a constituent member. We're just in the early stages of thinking about that, but that it would involve some training on how to draw the line between advice and information. It would be information about e-filing and where to make the best referrals. And so we're just starting to think about that and how we can do that in a community-based effort. So people just like public librarians, people who are at social service agencies, people at homeless shelters, DV shelters, who get these questions all the time. And just are craving some of that extra training. We're hopeful that we can start rolling that out soon, but that is definitely in the works because we know the community values you all so much and trusts you all. And really, we can't have those relationships. And so we want to be able to empower you all to have that information and feel confident about what you're giving, and also feel sort of secure in your role, and that you're not overstepping any sort of boundaries.
Yeah, I think Ashley states that, it really is wonderful that you guys are making access to the court system and the legal system so much more transparent and easy to follow. It's a real blessing for everyone, I think. And, I think I can speak for my library colleagues and say, yes, we want to be a participant. We get these questions anyway. We would really like to be empowered to know that the information we're giving them is accurate, timely, and can really have, really fits their needs. So I think we will be contacting you further for further, training programs and everything else. I'd like to say count us in. We're more than happy to partner with you guys. So, let this be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So I thank you all for coming, and all of the slides will be shared. I will be sending them out, and the session is being recorded. So, everyone, Lekisha, Lisa, Sarah, thank you so much. I'm sure you will be hearing from our libraries, and I believe all the information you have on here with your emails and everything is accurate. If you have any problems, we'll track you down because we're librarians and we know how to do that.
Actually, somebody just pointed out that Lisa's email on this slide is wrong. Please use the email that's on a previous slide of hers about Illinois Court Help.
Hey, well, thank you ladies very, very much. This has been very informative, lots of great information. And as I say, we're happy to hear more, and anything, you can send our way, we'll be happy to share. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, I think now that that was very interesting. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm very excited about this. I think we will continue with the rest of our meeting, and what that includes is we go around and do updates from various departments and the state library. And I would like to start with the state library. I'm not sure, Greg, are you going to be giving us an update on what's happening at the state library, or Pat, who'll be the person today?
Well, I guess I'm the chosen one today. So good morning, everyone. But certainly joining me today is Karen Egan, the Associate Director of Library Development, Pat Berg, and Bev Kane, who's a newer member of our library development staff, taking the place of many of you knew Jeannie Urbanik through her work with the Public Library Per Capita Grant Program. So welcome to her today as well. And thank you for inviting us. And we're always pleased to join this group and give you a few updates of what's occurring in Springfield right now. So the legislature's here. And so that makes for a very busy time in the Capitol complex because they're back here in person this year, and everyone was in the Capitol complex itself, but many things are still being conducted remotely, even though they're in the offices. But it's great to see some activity back in the state. Certainly what they do sets the course of action for what we do in interacting with libraries and literacy programs in the upcoming year. So we're continuing to follow what occurs with the budget development. And many of you have heard me already speak with the library system meetings about the anticipated funding levels in the Secretary's budget for FY22. They would all be sustained for library programs, which is very good news, which does include increases $2.6 million for the public library per capita grant program, $240,000 for the school library grant program. Now, that being said, the funding is in place. A component piece of that, though, has to be the statutory authority that allows us to just make distributions at the higher levels. For public library per capita grant recipients, that's $1.47.5 per person served by a library, up from $1.25. And for school libraries, it would raise the student level or the student calculation from 75 cents per student to 88.5 cents per student, with a minimum grant of $850. Now, that legislation passed the Senate unanimously earlier this session, and last night or yesterday afternoon late, it did move through the House committee and goes back to the House to be voted upon at this point. So I'm not sure when that will be. So if that occurs, of course, and the governor signs that, we will make the secretary will make the announcement regarding the public library per capita grants at the higher level for FY21. And it has been our commitment that even though the schools have already received their initial grant award from this office, if that is to occur, we will go back and make up the difference with each school district in the state as well at the higher level for FY21. So that's where we sit on that at the moment. Also for FY22, many of you have followed the American Rescue Plan Act, what has been stated available for libraries, etc. We're continuing to work on that and for implementation in FY22. In this case too, we also have to have expenditure authority granted by the General Assembly to go ahead and award those grants from the Secretary of State's office and make those allocations. So everyone should be on the lookout for further announcements, whether it's directly from the state library through the regional library systems or from the Illinois Library Association on the availability of that grant funding. Just to give you a bit of background for those of you who aren't aware, there were three general areas or three priorities that were established by the Institute of Museum and Library Services for use of that money. First, it was to enable libraries to reach their residents with internet hotspots, accessible Wi-Fi, other digital inclusion efforts, that would have an impact on education, health, workforce development needs, and really prioritizing communities with great need, whether that's poverty levels, certain unemployment levels, or the availability of broadband within the community. Secondly, it was to provide emergency relief to libraries across the country as you're responding to the pandemic and implementing health protocols. And third, it was just generally to support library services. What we've been talking about here is, three general areas that what you could do now is be thinking what is really needed at your library level. A modification to services, a modification to spaces within the library. The presentation you just had from the Illinois courts, and I was noticing in the chat, people were thinking, oh, grant funding for this and a modification of these spaces to certainly employ those services would be useful. This grant funding might allow you to do that. So if you would be interested in that, you need to be thinking along those parameters so that when the applications become available, you would be ready to address that. And then thirdly, I think that, a general category, what we're looking at is how libraries might respond to redevelopment of the workforce, which is, there are going to be many services that need. We were discussing this morning, I don't know that if anyone really understands the full impact of what is going to occur when the expanded unemployment benefits go away. What's that really going to mean, and what people will be coming to the libraries to address as far as their needs within the community. So thinking along those lines, I would encourage everyone to be open discussion amongst yourselves and look for more definitive information from the state library regarding the application process. Those are really the big things that were going to occur. I know that there's still much question and discussion about the finalization about the Cards for Kids Act administrative rules. I thought we would be bringing more definitive information to you today. In fact, I thought that was going to be scheduled for a JCAR meeting, or the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, on May 18th. That has now been delayed, and we're now working with JCAR on some additional information that they've requested from the state library. So as we get more definitive information to share with you, we certainly will. So with that, do you know if there will be a marketing angle to the grant funds as far as marketing the library itself? Yes. So that's the interesting part of this. They're marketing the program. Yes, as Karen said, marketing the library just in general is typically a prohibited use by IMLS. If you are looking at a very specific program or something you're wanting to, so say unemployment services that the library might offer to the community, or support, I should say. I don't know that it's really services. You might request a grant for that, or funding to support that.
Now, Greg, could you ask for more than one grant? I mean, it's like, okay, say your library and you want a kiosk, and you can see that being used for health issues, for legal issues, and people could go in there and have employment interviews, that kind of stuff. So it kind of ties in. And then say you want to do training for, potential employees to enhance their skills. Could you try to get money for both of those efforts?
I think similar to what we did with the CARES Act funding earlier, the $1.1 million, there were various categories, and different libraries applied for funding with all categories.
Okay.
And getting back to Jill, the question about marketing services, marketing programs is very just general library services. That has typically been a prohibition by IMLS for that. It's really specific about a program or an offering that you're marketing to your community. And Karen is responding to and writing in chat.
Any other questions from anyone? I think this is really exciting news, Greg. It seems like, there's some hope for more funding, and there's hope for more grants. I think that's great news. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you again.
Okay, well, if no one has any more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie to give us an update of what the heck is happening here at IHLS.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Welcome, and thanks to our presenters for a very fascinating presentation. I think it's a good way to end our fiscal year. Members matter, and it gives us lots of thoughts, at least gives me lots of thoughts, I'm sure Anna too, for what we might have on the docket for fiscal 2022 presentations. The first thing I want to do is give a shout out to our colleagues at the State Library. Thanks again, Greg and company, for joining us today. And some of you may know, some of you may not know that at the end of April, we received the remaining, the balance of our funding of our allocation for the fiscal 2021 System Area Per Capita Grant. That allocation remainder came to a total of $2,191,000. That was a happy receipt of funding for us, and We don't generally receive all of that funding at once. We're happy to get it, obviously, and rest assured, that helps us to our planning moving forward. So again, thank you very much, and it helps us looking forward to fiscal 2022. And speaking of fiscal year 2022, our staff are currently putting together the final pieces of our FY 2022 system area and per capita grant that tells the story of what we plan to do with the funding that Greg just mentioned, which will be sustained for that fiscal year. The two primary components of that funding, of that application, are our budget and budget narrative, and also the operational plan. Both of those are posted on our website. We always appreciate member feedback on those components, and we are still seeking your feedback. We've had some feedback which has been very helpful to our members on our committees and to our staff as well. I think John has posted in our chat a link. Yes, thank you so much, John, where you could go, if you could take a few minutes and look at that. Give us your feedback. If you leave a name, we're able to respond to you directly. If not, we'll respond on that site. And we do share that with committees, and we do share that with the board in general. The board meets on May 25th, the fourth Tuesday of the month, and that's when they do have to meet and approve both of those documents. So again, if you have time in your busy day, we know you're all busy. If you could take a few moments and give us your thoughts and concerns or comments, we truly appreciate it. Other than that, have a wonderful day. Thank you for spending a little bit of your time with us. Thank you, Ms. Anna.
Thank you, Leslie. That's really good news for us, and I'm excited about everything that's happening here and how we're going to be serving our members more and in better ways. So this is all exciting. I'm going to turn it over to the share people right now. I don't know if Cassandra's available or who will be speaking on behalf of Share, but take it away.
That would be me, Anna. Good morning, everyone. For the update, I'm just going to be short and sweet. We do have a couple of big projects that we are currently working on. One of the projects is the Solus app. If you head on over to the Share website, which is share.illinoisheartland.org, one of the first things you'll see in our newsfeed is the information for the app. We just want to give out that gentle reminder that the comment period and voting is open for this. There is also a recorded demonstration that you can watch that highlights the features and the components that are available within the app. This is something that has been in the works for quite some time, and we are really excited about this. So many positive comments, so just great to hear. Another project we are working on is our Kid and Caboodle program. Many of you may remember early last year, we had just gotten this up and running, and then, well, COVID. So we had to put this on the back burner. If you are unfamiliar with our Kid and Caboodle program, it is a way for Share members to share kits. This can be anything from a Lego kit to story walk, classroom sets, or even a costume. Share members will build the kit, and then you share them via a software program we use called Kit Keeper. Again, if you head on over to the Share website, at the top, you will see a tab for Kid and Caboodle. I would like to mention that when you send in a kit for the Kid and Caboodle, we take care of everything for the kit, from cataloging it, packaging, and even storing them if that is necessary. If you have any further questions regarding this program, we ask that you reach out to Zach Henderson. He's kind of our go-to person for the Kid and Caboodle program. You can reach Zach at his email, and it's zhenderson@illinoisheartland.org. Again, that's about all I have right now. Like I said, I was just going to keep it short and sweet. But if anybody has any questions for me, please feel free to throw those in the chat.
Hey, anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Dina. That was wonderful. I always like hearing what's happening with Share, even though my office has lots of people from work in it. It's like we're like ships passing in the nights these days. It's been a
We
long time.
are.
Anna, can I give a little bit on the bib services side?
Please do.
Okay. The most exciting news in bib services is that we have a new cataloger, Deborah Morris, and she's in the Cataloging Maintenance Center. She has extensive music cataloging experience as well as reading knowledge for German, Latin, Italian, French, and Spanish, which will be very helpful for cataloging in the CMC. Next, check L2 for any upcoming cataloging training. We have a very busy week next week, a barcoding class, Library of Congress subject headings, and then online with the CMC about serials cataloging. Then there's another barcoding class and Dewey Decimal classification coming up in June, plus our regular monthly training session. And finally, Melvin Public Library is the newest Share library, and they have started the barcoding process. That's all I have.
That's good to hear. And I just want to say thank you to both you ladies. I know that as I reach out to our members, especially I've been reaching out quite a bit, trying to get them to complete their traffic survey and their certification. And I know, I get shared questions that I always bounce back to you, and you're very good at answering them. And Dina, you have done a yeoman's task with all of the traffic survey questions that have come your way. And I really appreciate you handling those so well. So thank you, ladies. Any questions for these guys? Okay, if not, I'm going to give Shandy a heads up because I'm going to ask Shandy to introduce her new staff member and to talk a little bit about what's happening with marketing and communications. And while I'm letting her pull her thoughts together, I will give you an update on delivery. Susan is not able to join us today, but she did want to share that things are returning to normal in the way in delivery land, and they're not quarantining. They're still maintaining, safe handling. They're using hand sanitizers and carefully, masking and all of those kind of things as they handle the materials, but they're turning them around much quicker. And as a matter of fact, my daughter noticed that with things she was getting through the Carbondale Public Library. And Susan also said that delivery on the go, or dogs as it's known, has started again. And that's where two libraries on the same route, one after the other, can, quickly transfer materials doing that. And if you have any questions about that for route listings, check out the delivery tab on our website. And then you can scroll to the routes and see who's on which route and which library is where on that delivery system. So again, things seem to be returning to normal, moving much quicker, but we're still trying to be as aware of the COVID threat as possible and using safe measures in our handling of the books. And I'm sure you are too once they get to your library. Okay, Shandy, are you ready to kind of give us an update on what's happening in marketing and communications?
Sure, absolutely. I wasn't anticipating speaking, which is no problem, except you'll see this is Papaya. She's joining me on Zoom today. So the most exciting, oh, I forgot. Yeah, because she is. There she is. I didn't realize she's like invisible most of the time. So she might flash in and out. There you go. So anyway, the most exciting thing going on is that we now have two people in our communications and marketing department again. So Danielle Beasley has joined us. She was previously at Alpha Park Library, and I'm very excited to have her. So she has both a library and a marketing background, and she has already been very valuable in helping us look at some things that are happening in the state, especially in crisis communications, if that potential need were to come up, to look at how will things that pop up affect some of our member libraries. So thank you already for that, Danielle. She's been working with me on creating on revising our communications and marketing plan, which for FY22 will have some additional advocacy pieces. You may have noticed that it kind of fell in our lap. We did have someone from a WSIU reach out to us. They're in Carbondale, but they have towers all over southern and parts of central Illinois. And they asked us if we would like to work with them on a sponsorship opportunity for one of their programs, Hemingway, which is a new Ken Burns documentary. So that aired during National Library Week. And we had a spot that ran each of those 3 days, and we promoted that on social media as well. And we really wanted to use that as an opportunity to share with the people watching and the people who saw our posts on social media that libraries are still, serving people. We have been serving people. We are still serving people. Public libraries, this particular spot was public libraries in particular. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. We had quite a reach on social media to people that we don't normally reach. So that's exciting. Danielle, I would love it if you would introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I just started with Illinois Heartland, I believe April 19th was my first day. So I haven't been here quite a month yet, but almost. Like Shandy said, I used to be at Alpha Park Public Library. I was the adult services librarian there, but I was also the marketing manager. So I have my master's in library science, but I also have a background in English from ISU that had a focus on publishing studies as well. So I've got, like Shandy said, kind of both worlds. I'm used to the library world, but I've also got some marketing background as well. And I'm excited to just get started here and to meet and get to know all of our wonderful members and see what ways we can better communicate and get messages out to all of you. So thank you.
Great. It's been a lot of fun working with you so far, Danielle, and Shandy's always good to work with, and you keep us on task and helping us get the word out. I appreciate that as well. Now, if any of our members have questions about marketing, could they reach out to you and Shandy?
Yeah, so I believe so. I may be speaking too soon because, again, I'm still new, but we do have that communications email, right, Shandy?
Yes. So if you want to reach out to communications@illinoisheartland.org, you'll reach both of us at the same time, communications within us, but you're also welcome to call either of us. Oh, you just made me really happy, as a matter of fact, Anna, because I just love talking about marketing. And so if you ever, have a program and you're kind of stuck, like I'm really not sure what to do, I would say, well, first go to the ILA marketing group on social media, but also feel free to, reach out to us by email or pick up the phone and call me. I'm happy to talk.
Hey, great. Thank you. Ellen, would you like to talk about membership?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's good to see all of you. I have to tell you, as of right now, 510 of our 524 libraries have completed the certification process. So yeah, Anna and I will be spending the next day and a half running after and harassing the remaining 14 entities, but that's a good number. I'm really happy with that today. I'm just going to bring up a couple things that might be of interest to all of you. First of all, if you haven't thought about participating in ILA's Trustee Boot Camp, that will be held this Saturday from 9 to noon via Zoom. It's a really good opportunity for anybody who has new trustees. And I was really pleased yesterday to get a call from one of our smallest libraries that they were interested in registering 3 people for it. Registration will be open through tomorrow. So if you're thinking about it, please take advantage of that, because well-grounded trustees make such a difference in library management, and certainly for many of you as directors. We have 2 events left in our HR series, and that will be one on conflict management on May 20th. And the second one will be held on June 17th, and that's called Critical Conversations, and how to have those difficult one-on-one conversations with members of your library organization. So again, we really encourage people to take advantage of that. There is a fee for those of $10 each, but we've made an arrangement this year to be able to record those and leave them posted online for a week following the event. So even if you can't make that day in that time slot, you have a week in which to view it. I will give a shout out to Anna and to Leslie. They're working hard on Directors U. This is the second year that will go virtually. And we're just so happy to see that opportunity available for our library directors. So that's about what I have, Anna.
Thank you, Ellen. I would just like to echo your plug for the the trustee boot camp. And even if you can't talk your trustees into going, I think it would be valuable for many of our directors to just go. This one covers a variety of the core topics that trustees need to know about. And you may get ideas on how to approach your trustees, on how to talk to them about these things. Just put it on their horizon that they need to know about these things. And I know I've been getting requests from people to come and talk to their trustees. So if you would like me to do that at your library, or you have a particular trustee issue, or your trustees have questions, please reach out and contact me at any time. I've done a lot of work with trustees, and I hope to be doing more with them and doing more programs again with trustees and focused for trustees. So
Anna, you got a shout out from Tina Hubert and Diana Donahue about the value of the ILA sessions, trustee sessions so far, and they're both going to be at the boot camp. And Tina echoed what you said about it being good for directors.
oh yeah, these are really top flight kind of classes. I would encourage everyone to go, and the price is really insignificant for the amount of knowledge and just support even you can get in bringing these things. You can speak to your board more confidently about these things after you attend the boot camp. So if there's no further questions on that, I will turn it over to you guys. Who's doing something interesting in their library that they would like to share with us? I know Ashley Stewart, you're out there and you're always doing interesting things. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about, Ashley? Ashley's probably left the room. Anyone at all? Jill, if you have anything to add or anything going on, I know you're asking questions about the statewide database funding project. I have no information on that. Does you, Ellen, or Leslie have any information about that purchase, or the state library? Anybody?
The some real staff that I was talking to a few days ago said that they would have some public information soon.
Good.
Hey guys,
Hi.
sorry, I had to go grab my mic. So, we are getting ready to do a drag queen story time during our summer reading program during Pride Week, especially since it kind of fits in with the theme Reading Colors Your World. And we have noticed a lot of, queens, people from the LGBTQ community that is interested in doing these story times. And we saw that Drag Queen Story Hour is a nationwide organization, and there is no chapter in the whole St. Louis metro area. The closest chapters of us, closest to us is in the Chicago area. So if other libraries want to join in with us, and I know we can get people from the LGBTQ community, I think it'd be awesome if we could form a local chapter for Drag Queen Story Hour. It's free. They are not charging us because they believe in that community outreach and education. The two stories that our queen will be reading is one about a red crayon that is actually blue. So they see themselves as blue. But so anyway, it's super cute. The other one is Perfectly Norman, I believe. I think that's the name of it. But anyway, so yeah, so we're just kind of getting everything in gear for summer reading program. But if any other libraries are interested in hosting a drag queen story time, let me know and we can see what we can do about forming a local chapter, because I think that'd be awesome. So that's from Caseyville.
That's great. Are you preparing for any kind of pushback on that, or just what kind of strategy are you using this to advance it in your community, Ashley?
We are. So I've reached out to our village. I'm going to see what the the protocol is for any protesting that might go on. So some communities require permits for protesting. So I'm going to coordinate with them about that. And then also just letting our local police department know of the event, the day and the time, and letting them know. But we also, advocacy-wise, are going to try to incorporate our high schools, Gay Straight Alliance Club, and pretty much every university has a club as well. So I think the goal is to have more support than protesters. So as long as you have, a greater supporting crowd, then that's all we can really do. But I'm excited and anxious. One, I'm not one. I don't mind ruffling feathers if anybody knows me, but I think it's important. And I know there's a house right behind the library that has a rainbow flag, waving from their house. So I think yes, you're going to get pushback and people are going to be upset, but I think more importantly is letting the community know that the library is a very welcoming place for everyone, and I think that's the most important message. So so anyway,
Thank you for
okay, now I'm here. We had all the patrons leave at this point, so now I can stay safely distanced. But yeah, so but yes, if anybody has any questions or wants to talk to me about it, the other thing that we're working on is Heartlands Conservancy has grants right now. If you have outdoor area at your garden or at your library, if you are interested in getting a rain garden, rain barrels, anything like that. So we're going to try to get some grants for some, outdoor classrooms, so that way we can build on our community garden. But I don't want to take up the whole meeting, but yes, all good things here at Caseyville.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And yes, I will be interested to see how your story time turns out and all of those kind of things. I hope you take lots of pictures and share them with us. And
he gave permission, or she gave permission to live stream, so we will be live streaming. So we'll see if there's madness, you'll see it. So
well, no, I think it's great. I applaud your effort for inclusiveness and trying to make everyone, which is what we want. We want everyone to feel welcome and safe in the library. So I think that's wonderful that you're reaching out to your community and doing that. That's great. And I love the whole gardening kind of stuff. Anyone who gardens, with the library, I love that too. So anyone else have anything? Thank you, Ashley. Anyone else have anything they'd want to share? I see you, John Howard. Would you like to talk about what's happening in Muhammad?
Well, our big thing, can you hear me?
Yes.
Our big thing this 6 months, we had to abandon an expansion project, not permanently, but temporarily, because of the pandemic, and it just seemed like the right time to be doing a referendum. So we started trying to figure out how we can manage the fact that our space for collection in our library is just not big enough. And we've actually rented and outfitted a room in a former school building in the town, and are moving about 10,000 of our items to an off-site collection. They're still going to be available for interlibrary loans. If someone comes in looking for it in the library, they can have it within 24 hours. It's not going to be open to the public. It's actually just a storage space. It was actually inspired by something the University of Illinois does, where apparently they have more like 80% of their collection in high density storage. But it was a way for us to increase storage space, increase the size of our collection, and also get our shelves more appropriately spaced, because our shelves had gotten unsustainably crowded. So it's kind of a new thing for us. We're about maybe a third of the way through moving collection, choosing things and getting there. So I think it's just a different thing that we're trying to do to find a way to build our collection without having to add building.
Now, why did you decide to get offsite storage as opposed to just doing massive weeding?
Because the weeding we're doing, we're basically pulling things that are still being used. We have just so little room for collection that when I last weeded our large print, most everything I was weeding was purchased in 2017 and 2018. Some of it had been circling recently, but we just don't have enough space, and we're always adding. You can't stop adding new items to your collection. So this is kind of an experiment. We took a 3-year lease. It's $350 a month for the storage. So it's for a library our size. It's certainly not terribly expensive. And we're just going to see how much use that stuff uses. And if we find that all the stuff languishes there, then it just means we have to weed harder. But we felt like that. Also, if you look at the old standards from Serving Our Public 3.0, for a community our size, our collection size was considered minimal. And our board really didn't like having a minimal collection size, but that's literally all the room we have in the building. So it's a way of building our collection, but also keeping our collection spaced.
Oh, I think it can be probably used as a pretty powerful tool down the road, because I mean, if you can say, this is our reading policy, we're keeping on top of this. We're not just keeping books for the sake of keeping books, but we're keeping the most valuable books, and we still don't have space. So I think when it comes referendum time, you can definitely pull those statistics and that usage out and prove to people that, yeah, we really do need more space.
Yeah.
I love it, because I hate seeing good books. I love to read, but I hate it. It gets very painful when you have a book that still has life in it, and you have to read it. So.
Well, and I'm weeding at the same time. I find I'm pulling about 30% of the books out of adult fiction right now. 10% of them are getting weeded, and 20% are going to the offsite collection. So we are still doing some weeding, but again, the ones that we're moving offsite really don't meet the criteria for weeding yet. They're in good condition. They're still circling. They're just not circling as well as anything else, and we're out of space.
I will look forward to hearing more about this project. Thank you, John, for sharing that. Anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about? Anything new and exciting at your library?
Hey, Anna, this is Jill. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I'm not sure. My computer's doing weird things. So I'm just going to give a big shout out to my staff, because since August of 2020, we've had 0 children's staff at my library, and just due to resignation requirements and hiring freezes. They came together and we managed to create a summer reading program this year, significantly pared down from what we normally have, less labor intensive, since total we're down 3 staff at my library still. And one of the cool things that we're doing, kicking off Summer Reading Club, is we're having a foam party. So basically a guy comes with a giant gun filled with foam, and he creates a mountain of foam, and then it's outdoor, of course. and the kids just play in it. So we're looking forward to that, because really, who doesn't want to run through a giant mountain of foam? Yes, that is shifting, Christine.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I would want to do that.
Yeah. Well, I know Elizabeth Osborne at Potomac is actually doing this kind of, it's like a reading. You can either read a certain amount of books during summer reading, and then you win a chance to throw a pie at the librarian, or you can buy raffle tickets or buy fundraising for that too. So I think running through a thing of foam is more fun than having, pie in your face. So just, I love the creativity of different things that are going on. And I know that Shandy has sent me a message that there's something else she would like to share. So Shandy, you want to sneak in here and share what you had in mind?
Yeah, I almost forgot. So I've been working with Rails on some ideas for mylibraryis.org.info. Just Google My Library Is, it'll pop up, it'll be the first thing. And one of the things that we're really looking for is for some additional stories. So we're talking about ways that your library has touched your community. So that could be anything, that could be from one librarian shared that, she found some sleds during the winter and she decided to put them outside her library with a sign saying, borrow a sled, bring it back. And that was a way to engage with the community during the middle of winter during a pandemic. So that's just one example. If you have stories like that, it could be something like that, drag queen story hour, some, marketing initiative that got a lot of engagement on social media, anything like that. We would love to hear those stories. You're welcome to contact me about that and I can help get that up there, but you're also welcome to go straight to the My Library Is website. And if you go to the blog section, you'll be able to see other library stories and you'll be able to submit your own as well. So that's also a great way to get some ideas for some other ways that other libraries are touching their communities. So thank you.
Thanks, Shandy. Also, thank you, Jill, for sharing what's going on in your library. Sounds like fun. And again, send us lots of pictures. We love that kind of stuff. Diana Donahue, do you have anything happening at your library that you would like to share with us? I haven't spoken to you in a long time, and I, would love to know what's going on with you and your library.
All right, this is Donna Tisha. Is that who you're addressing?
Okay.
Okay, so at the Vermont Public Library, we have senior coffee hour open 2 hours before the rest of the library opens, and senior citizens have been coming in. We're averaging about 10 people in the library during this time. We have some pretty competitive games of dominoes and checkers and things like that occur. Everybody keeps social distance and masks as appropriate. We had them paint and create windowsill herb boxes. And we've got a guy coming next week who's going to help them plant herbs of their own little herb garden to take home. That's sort of the biggest activity right now until school gets out. And when school gets out, we have several things, afternoons of movie watching when the pool is closed is the promise right now. So we're calling it the rainy days of summer. So whenever the town pool is closed, the kids are welcome to come to the library and we'll have some kind of activity for them. So that's kind of the current programming at the moment.
Wow, that sounds great. As I said, I love the gardening stuff. I remember as a kid how much I enjoyed that too. I think that's a wonderful program. So sounds like you guys are busy. And I think that's wonderful too. Thank you for sharing that, Donna. Um, Brenda Gilpatrick, are you out there? And would you like to tell us what's happening in Redbud? Well, maybe we'll have to come back to Brenda. Bobby Perryman, I know you are always doing so much at your library too.
Hello. So we're getting ready to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the groundbreaking for our building addition. We originally were going to do a reception, but can't. So we're doing a party in a bag where patrons come in and they get a little scavenger hunt that'll take them through the building where they'll learn the history of the building, but also information about library services. And it has like confetti and little party makers and things like that. And if they finish the scavenger hunt, they get a custom made 30th anniversary cookie that a local baker made for us.
Oh,
we're pretty excited. My favorite's the one with the little shovel with Oreo cookie dirt. We've just opened up seating areas, newspapers, and a limited selection of toys. So we made kind of a little flip guide for the toys that we're allowing, and patrons can come up, pick out which toy they want. We give it to them, they play with it, they bring it back to our staff cleans it, and then it's ready for the next one. So slowly opening up more, and we're very excited about it. And we're excited about summer reading in person as opposed to last year where it was all virtual.
That is exciting. And it sounds like, you're always planning fun things there. And, it's been a while since I've been to your library, but I think it's nice that you're commemorating the addition. You have a beautiful building, and
thank you.
Nice where it's located in the community. Mm-hmm. It's very centrally located. So it's nice that you're celebrating that.
Yes.
You have a big response.
I hope we do too. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Bobby. How about Christine? Are you out there, and would you like to talk about what's happening at your library? Christine Garish, I should say. There may be other Christines out there. Carol Brockmeyer, you're welcome to speak up too. Nobody needs to be shy. I'm enjoying hearing what's going on. I see Diane Donahue did respond that she's hiring 2 new CERT clerks. She's just starting the interviews next week. I know a lot of you are opening up again, or you're starting that process of opening up again. I know a lot of people lost a lot of staff during the COVID pandemic. And so it's nice to see that you're rebuilding your staff and that you're expanding your hours again, and things are slowly trudging back to normal, or whatever normal will look like now. Hopefully we learned some lessons from the COVID time, and it'll inform what we do going forward. I think a lot of people really love the curbside service. I see that as one thing that'll probably be around for a long time. Oh, and Esther Curry says she's still looking for a children's librarian at Mount Vernon. So if you know of any good people, they're looking. Yeah, Bobby says she's keeping curbside. It's hard to, once people know you can do that, they kind of love it and want you to continue. And it is very convenient when you have small children, or I think too, sometimes people are ill and they drag themselves inside the library to get something just because they want to lay on the couch and read or watch something. So if you can contain them to their car and just hand it to them that way, I that's a good way of doing that. So any other comments, thoughts? Well, if not, I'm going to thank you all for attending and participating. I thought our presenters were really good, lots of interesting information, and
I hope that you take Greg's advice and start thinking about, what you want your library to look like, what kind of services you want to offer your people, and start thinking about plans for taking advantage of some of the grant money that might be coming our way. So I think that's pretty exciting news, actually. And I think that there's lots of potential that way. And the more we prove that we are the heart of the community, and for a lot of people, they have nowhere else to go to have these services. So I think it can be of real benefit for us. So, Ashley has said that this is a great time to update our strategic plans and do community surveys. That's a good point, Ashley. I think in advance of those grant things, that's even makes it a better time. But yes, I like, always thinking about the future. Okay, any other comments? All right, we'll end the meeting 10 minutes early, and you get 10 minutes of wonderful free time in your life. Enjoy yourselves. I'll be making phone calls to those people, as Ellen mentioned, who have not completed their certification or traffic survey. So that'll be my fun activities. I hope to hear from a lot of you at the directors chat this afternoon at 1. So be ready. All right. Thank you all. Goodbye.